Now, I've witnessed firsthand that it is not easy when you finally accept, when you acknowledge that you're dealing with an emotionally unavailable man, because I've been on the other side of that, right? I have seen the emotional ups and downs that a woman can go through or the partner can go through when they are in a place where they have to accept that the individual that they're dealing with is simply emotionally void, that this individual is emotionally numb, that they are dealing with so much unresolved trauma and they're not willing to acknowledge this fact. And you may be able to see it clearly, but for some reason, it's as if they're completely blindsided to it, that it's non existent almost to them, that even if you try to bring this conversation up to them, it seems as if you're being gaslighted out of the situation. And I tell you from my own experience, it's not the fact that we're looking to make you feel like you're crazy. It's a simple fact that we are so afraid of acknowledging our own emotional state that we're not willing to go there, right? We're protecting ourselves from the hurt that we believe is going to come as a byproduct. And we've been doing this our entire lives. So, I already know how difficult it is and how emotionally taxing it can be just to have to accept this. So, it is only normal for you to get to a place where you want to fix the problem. Now, notice I said normal and not natural, right? It's normal to feel as if this is a problem that you have to fix, but it is not natural. This is something that's been trained and conditioned into us, especially as women, right? I've heard this more often from women than even men. Like, we have our own savior complex and its own version, but when it comes to women, there has been a deep-seated conditioning that it is your job to fix everybody. And of course, this is wired into that biological aspect of, nurturing and taking care of child, etc., right? Taking care of family and the village. And that's a beautiful thing. But when that gets basically turned against oneself, it becomes a self-destructive mechanism where the individual is constantly looking to save those around them. You become basically a tool for people, a utility. And again, as a man, I know what that could feel like when it feels as if your only purpose is to be useful to somebody else, where you can't just exist for the mere sake of existing. And so when you get to this place where you finally have to accept, because we must, in order for us to begin to heal, we must accept the reality of what something is. And though it feels as if it may feel safer not to, or just to go along to get along, we all know that the reason why we've been suffering anyway is because we've been going along to get along, right? The reason we've been suffering is because we've been staying in these situations that we know no longer serve us or never served us to begin with. Now, I am somebody who has to keep it all the way real. I do feel that need. There's enough people telling you what you quote unquote want to hear or what they think you want to hear, but I'm really here to let you know what you need to hear. If you believe that it is your job to fix the emotionally unavailable partner that you are in relationship with, and you are hell-bent on this, right? Like, you believe it is your sole responsibility, that you must do something, that you must go completely out of your own way, in essence, to sacrifice yourself for the sake of this relationship in this way. What I will tell you is that this is, and I want to say in the most straightforward way, this is a product of your own unresolved trauma. This is a you thing at this point. Not how they're showing up. That's not what I'm saying. Them showing up the way that they are in life, them being, afraid to express themselves, afraid of vulnerability, afraid to open up in an emotional place. That's them and them. But what is you and you is this incessant need to save somebody. And, when I used to coach individuals through these sorts of life situations, what used to come up more often than not was kind of this perception that the reason I continue to attract the same type of relationship dynamic is simply because this is how all people are, right? When in reality, the reason why we continue to create the very same relationship dynamics is because this is based off of what my girl would say, like our blueprint, right? This is the image that we have in our heads of what a relationship is supposed to be at some level, or the image that we have of ourselves because that will project out into our relationships. If we believe that we're not deserving to be loved, we're not deserving to be, accepted for who we are as we are, but instead we have to show up as something else. Like for me, I'm, very much a recovered people pleaser, which might sound completely contradictory. How can a man who's emotionally unavailable also be a people pleaser? Well, two things can exist at the same time, right? I believe that my own sense of worthiness came from, solving and fixing and showing up in the world in a way where I didn't ruffle anybody's feathers in any sort of way. And of course, that led to resentment. Of course, that led to a state where I felt as if, people were taking advantage of me, etc. And that made me even more jaded than I already was. But at the core of it was this belief that I was not enough, I was not adequate, so long as I was not, being something for somebody else. I couldn't just be something for me, or I couldn't just show up in the relationship being who I was. I had to put on some type of facade, a mask. I had to entertain in some sort of way in order to be acceptable. And this is the reality for many of you who are going to be watching this right now. Again, these aren't easy truths to accept, but they are liberating and they are freeing. This is true empowerment. Not what they're selling. They're selling us a crock as far as, empowerment is, giving your body away to just anybody, or empowerment is, bossing up and being better than everybody around you. It has nothing to do with that. True empowerment is to accept that you are more powerful than you truly know, and to live life in accordance with that power, which means you have the power to step away from that situation, to heal, and to find yourself in relationship dynamics that actually serve you. And I mean in every respect, because the chances are that it's not just showing up in your interpersonal or your intimate relationship. It's also showing up in your familial relationships. It's showing up in the friendships that you cultivate, right? You might even find this dynamic in, if you have a boss or something of that nature, or, colleagues, and, like this blueprint is going to show up in all relationships. It just happens to show up the most frequently and the most obviously in our intimate relationship, because that relationship is the one that reflects, or at least best reflects, the relationship we had with our parents, or what we saw as a dynamic with our parents, whether they were in the house or whether those parents were not in the house, whether there was just one parent, two parents, whatever it may have been. We are living out the blueprint that we were giving in childhood. And so again, especially for women, what I've noticed, again, I'm not saying that this is exclusive. What I'm saying is I have noticed that the conditioning is far deeper when it comes to this clinging on to saving somebody. I can save them. I can change them. I can do something in order to make them different. Now, you might already be uncomfortable thinking, damn, is this dude saying that I have to leave this relationship? First and foremost, I'm not going to tell you what or what not to do. You are grown. I believe that we all have our own deep intuition. We have our own knowing, right? Our gut instinct. And oftentimes, if that gut instinct is telling you no, then the no is a no. But we're going to do what we're going to do because we're grown. We can make our own decisions and we can move through life as we choose to move through life. Does that mean it's going to be beneficial for us? In many cases, absolutely not. But that doesn't change the fact. And so I believe that each person must make their own decision. However, when you find yourself in a place that you feel as if there is simply nothing you can truly do, right? And that's where many of you guys are. There is nothing you can do. It's the truth. When you feel like there is something you can do about it, that's a lie. Because when it's all said and done, only I could fix me. I was the only one who could get to a point where I could finally choose to face the things that I was afraid to face. It's as simple as that. Nobody else could make that decision for me. It's like being in any sort of recovery program. There is nobody under heaven or earth that can go through those recovery steps for you. And I'm, a recovered addict from the age of 14 to 19. And, some people say, oh, that wasn't that long, or you didn't even, know life yet. It's like, well, I lost 3 of my best friends, to that lifestyle. And I don't mean lost as in they're no longer in my life. I mean, they're no longer alive, right? And, what that experience taught me, and now 10 years later, is that only I could have made the decision that I made because there were people around me who saw how my life was degenerating. They saw how I was quite literally bringing myself to an early grave. And They wanted life for me, but only I could choose life for me. And this is the very same truth when it comes to your partner or the individual that you're dealing with or we're dealing with. And maybe you're thinking, man, maybe I should fix this situation or whatever it is. Or maybe you're looking, hopefully you're in a situation where you're looking forward. It's like, I think this might be what this is, right? And again, you got to trust your gut on this one. You have to trust your instinct to say, this probably is exactly what I'm feeling it is. It is that sort of relationship. Now, again, you have to check yourself because maybe you have a level of self-sabotage. Maybe you're so used to toxic relationships that, a peaceful relationship is frightening. And if you're in that place, don't get in a relationship yet. That's gonna be my straightforward advice. I do give that piece of advice, and I'm very, very straight with that one. Is if you are not ready for one, don't get into one. Right? Go through your healing process. Truly acknowledge those aspects of yourself that are constantly creating these toxic cycles. You just have to do it. We all have to do it if we're going to have fruitful relationships. And then the relationship that comes as a byproduct of that, you're not going to have to watch videos like this ever again. At least not for the reason you are right now. You're not going to have to watch it as, this cautionary tale. You're not going to have to watch it as, again, getting to a place where you make a decision. You already know what's best for you. You already know where you stand, and you know that your worthiness is inherent. It's intrinsic. All of our worthiness is inherent and is intrinsic. And I know that's another aspect of why you see yourself as, I have to save this person. I have to do something, to change the situation, because we all acknowledge within ourselves that everybody is deserving of love. And that's a beautiful thing that, is wired into the feminine. Is there is a hopefulness in people, right? And that can sometimes stretch into enabling, and it can stretch into doing the most, and it can stretch into absolute sabotage and chaos and its furthest extent. But, at its true nature, I understand that it is, I see the best. I see the potential in this individual, which is a wonderful thing. But here's the thing about potential. It's not your job to realize potential. You can foster it, but potential is just going to be potential until potential chooses to no longer just be potential. When potential chooses to live this thing out, we love to look at what somebody can be. And I used to find myself in this dynamic where it's like, okay, I know this person can be X, Y, and Z, right? Even when it came into my career, I know that this person, they have the potential to become this. And so I would connect with them and become a business partner with them and, and hope that they could quickly become the person I needed them to be in order to fulfill the things I needed to be fulfilled. And instead, I was left disappointed because I created an expectation and I placed that expectation on them, as opposed to looking at who they actually were, looking at their habits, their patterns. This is why character is such a powerful tool. It's the indicator of who somebody is through and through, right? If you're seeing things that are indicators of somebody's character, that's a complete red flag. And we do that as men, right? We're scanning for character. We're looking for consistencies and inconsistencies, Start doing that for yourself. That's kind of off. And you can have discussions about it. And if an individual is not willing to go there, most of the time, that's going to be a major, major red flag. This is for anybody, right? If something is off the table, me and my girl, everything is on the table. We can talk about any and everything, and there's going to be a discussion had about it. Now, we're dealing with Aquarius and Aries, so, we're going to talk that talk regardless. But nevertheless, it's got to be that type of an open relationship, because what it begins as is what it's going to continue to perpetuate to be more of, right? And the thing to potential again is, like, I ask myself, am I willing to be in this relationship even if this person stays the exact same as they are right now, or they, regress a little bit? Am I okay with that? If I'm not okay with that, then I probably shouldn't be involved in myself, because those are the odds. The odds are that they're going to remain pretty much this way, especially, we met as adults or whatever it is. Most people are going to remain pretty consistent to who they already are. It's very few that are actually going to transform. Like, if you're watching this and you're a person who's completely transformed your life, you are part of the minority of individuals, at least at this point in human history. You are part of the minority who has made that leap and made that decision for yourself. Most people will remain pretty consistent with their past blueprint. And, again, they might just step a little bit back. So it's like, if somebody right now is, a little bit overweight, the odds are they're going to put on a little more weight as they age, right? Are you okay with that? Okay. And I know that's a surface level one, but still, it is what it is, right? And I'm drawing a parallel here to say, if you see aspects of their character right now that, feel as if they're underdeveloped, the odds are they're going to stay the same. Now, if they don't, that's a beautiful thing, but you want to base it off of where are they, when we meet. And again, if you're already feeling things, if you're seeing things and it's coming from that true gut feeling, our first brain, as Dr. Gabor Mate would call it, that true wisdom that we have within us, not the storage unit that can tell us all types of stuff, but just that, that solar plexus, that knowing, that gut feeling. When you have that messaging coming through, listen to it and run for the hills. And of course, everybody's going to want to change as soon as you're ready to, to pack it up and leave. Like, I've been in situations like that. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that different. Please don't leave. Please, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Right. Because it's been years since, I was the emotionally unavailable man. I've gone through the work because I chose to. I had to shift my life. And now, I'm the guy on the other side who's able to openly express anything that's really going on. I'm not afraid of opening up. I understand that it is human to open up and that it actually creates bridges and it doesn't disintegrate those. Now, I've already done an entire series and I probably will continue it. I think I'm like 5 in right now of Confessions of the Emotionally Unavailable Man. So I go into depth as far as why is this individual showing up in this way. But again, I think what matters most beyond just the understand, or I guess it could be equally weighed, is what matters just as much as understanding what's going on here is to understand that it's not your job to fix it. It is not your job to fix it. Not only because you cannot fix it, but because it's like you're going to rob somebody of their own opportunity to transform and to change and to become all that they can truly be. And we don't oftentimes view it that way, especially when you have that people pleaser aspect of you. We think, oh, I'm doing the best for this person. You don't know what's best for them. They might have to go all the way rock bottom in order for them to build back up. And maybe you're afraid that you're not going to be the one to reap the benefits of that or something. And that's our ego that's playing on us. Well, if I leave now and then they all of a sudden, they become this person who realizes their potential and now some other woman gets them or whatever it is. Oh, what does that mean? It means that that's what it means. It means that they moved on and they're living their life and you're going to live a greater and vaster, you're going to live the full experience that you're supposed to live on this planet, which is to be fulfilled. And you can have the relationship dynamics that you truly deserve, that we all deserve. It's just, again, we have to move in alignment and in accordance with that. And if you're occupying the space right now with this type of relationship dynamic, you are taking up the space where, the person, the relationship dynamic that actually could move right in. And again, I'm not the one who's going to tell you do this or do that. If you are a sadist at some level, which means like you enjoy the pain and you're kind of addicted to the suffering, go ahead and do you. You're grown. Go ahead and do you. But this message specifically is for those who are looking to genuinely make a decision, not looking to get, validated in your misery, but instead, how do we actually heal? How do we move forward? And again, you're doing the very best thing for this individual. You may be in a rare situation where you wake up today and they're like, hey, I want to talk to you. I got this going on, or man, I need to do something different, because they feel the level of suffering. It's only when the pain outweighs the pleasure. This Tony Robbins, the first dude I heard say this, but I know it's been around forever. It's only when the pain outweighs the pleasure that we will finally change. And so until it is a true pain point, until it's more painful to be in a place of emotional distance and emotional voidness, until it's more painful, living in a state where you're afraid to commit, like me, that's what it was. I realized that my fear of commitment was destructive to my life. And it had led to majority of the problems, like the greatest problems in my life around everything, including what I love to do most, like my purpose, my passion, which is huge. It's everything to a man. And, it has to just be their journey. Sometimes it's not going to be about the relationship, but it then channels into the relationship, because that then made me realize, damn, this is why your relationship dynamics look the way that they do. And so things became very clear for me. And from that moment on, I made a clear decision that I was no longer going to live with this mask on. I didn't care if it was going to be painful. I don't care if I had to, see the emotions that I was afraid to face the entirety of my life. I wanted something different. I wanted a life experience where, I could fully experience a relationship and be close and not be an arm's distance, and not be closed off and acting like everything's good when it's really not, acting too cool for school. Like, I don't want that anymore. I didn't want emotional distance when there was supposed to be closeness. And so I made the decision, but it was only I, and it was after more than a decade and a half of being in certain relationship dynamics where I said, you know what, this ain't it. And for some, it might be 30 years later, it might be 40 years later, whatever it is, but you don't have to be there for the damn journey. You ain't got to be there for the roller coaster. I'm not even gonna call it a journey for you. It's their journey, but for you, it will feel like a roller coaster where they're undecided, and they're living how they're living. And again, unless you are still addicted to that suffering, and if that's the case, then it's time to truly to dig deep and to start to face those aspects in self, right? Simple as that. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. Again, I got the series on Confessions of Emotional Unavailable Man. Maybe some of y'all came from there. Make sure to tune into that if you want like the deep dive and understanding psychology. I am the type of person, I do like to understand things as deep as possible. For me, that's my level of compassion. It's like the opposite of judgment for me is understanding. Some people will say compassion, and maybe this is a more masculine thing. I don't know. But for me, it's like if I can get some head knowledge about it, if I can get some wisdom about a thing, like it allows me then to recognize where people are coming from. And so it's easier for me to let go for me and to let go for them. So that being said, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Till the next time, peace.
I'm scared to lose you. The reason I refuse you. I'm scared to lose you. The reason I refuse to. I'm scared to lose you. Get too close to lose. The reason I refuse you. Get too close to lose. I'm scared to lose.